students, today we will discuss about the pharmacotherapy of tuberculosis. In the previous class, we discussed about the various drugs used in the management of tuberculosis. That is, we discussed about the first line drugs, which are nothing but HRZES. That is, H stands for isoniazid, R stands for rifampin, Z stands for pyrazinamide, E stands for ethambutol, and S stands for streptomycin. Okay. Today we will discuss about the various pharmacotherapeutic regimen which is followed in the management of tuberculosis. Okay. So before indulging directly into the the various regimens, we will see the principles of pharmacotherapy of tuberculosis. Okay. First, so you need to understand the term Mycobacterium tuberculosis resistance. Okay. The first is, the genotypic resistance. Of course, the first line drugs will work effectively until a resistance is developed. This resistance may be of two types, that is genotypic and phenotypic. Genotypic means the alteration in the genetic makeup, like mutation in RPO gene or INHA gene. Okay, they will cause resistance to rifampin and INH, that is isoniazid respectively. Okay, so that is genotypic resistance, alteration in the genes. For phenotypic resistance means, actually the thing is, there will be no change in the genes, but the microenvironment created by the organism will be such that the drugs will be rendered ineffective. Okay, phenotypic is not of a much problem. Okay, whereas genotypic is problematic, right? And genotypic resistance is irreversible and phenotypic resistance is reversible. Now, one of the major hallmark of the treatment of mycobacterial infections is the quite unusual longer duration of treatment. Mycobacterium tuberculosis treatment runs in months to years, whereas Mycobacterium leprae treatment runs again in runs for years together. Okay, so that is very particular about this Mycobacterium species, because why do we require such a long duration of therapy? Okay, first is they divide very slow when compared to other bacteria. Okay, and we all know that the antibiotics work well on dividing bacteria rather than dormant bacteria. And not only that, the percentage of dormancy in Mycobacterium tuberculosis is much higher when compared to other bacteria or other microorganisms. Okay, so you kill the active bacteria, then the dormant portion of the dormant will become active. So such a long duration of therapy is required so that all the dormant bacilli gets converted to active and then get killed by the antibiotics. Now, the thing is, now we will talk about principles of multi-drug treatment. When you talk about the principles of antibacterial therapy, depending on the particular type of infection or depending upon a particular condition, an empiric antibiotic therapy will be given. And before starting the empiric therapy, we do sample either blood or tissue which are infected, and that sample will be subjected to culture and sensitivity, and based upon the culture and sensitivity results, the number of antibiotics will be reduced. It is reduced usually to 1 based upon the culture and sensitivity report. But to combat the infection by Mycobacterium tuberculosis, we need more than one drug. Okay, if you see the history, streptomycin was the first drug to be used in the management of tuberculosis, but the development of resistance was so high with streptomycin that there was a huge number of failures. The failure rate was very high. Whereas when drugs were added to streptomycin, the proportion of resistance started coming down drastically. Say here, for example, when you tell that a latent infection is present that in a human being, we already saw that almost 1/3 of the Indians harbor Mycobacterium tuberculosis in their lungs, but not everyone is infected. So there's a huge proportion of latent infection. So usually the number of bacteria present in latent infection is around thousands. Okay, for active infections, that is for creating a typical cavitary infection, the number of bacilli is around the number of bacilli present at the site of infection will be around 10 to the power of 11. Will be around the 10 to the power of 11. Okay, right. Now if you see, spontaneous mutation causing drug resistance occur for 1 in 10 to the power of 6 bacilli with INH and 1 in 10 to the power of 7 bacilli with rifampin. So basically, if you take rifampin, for example, if you are giving rifampin alone, okay, in a cavitary infection, already there will be at least 10,000 bacilli which will be resistant to rifampin, or 1 lakh bacilli will be resistant to INH if it's given alone, and that is a sufficient number to take over the sensitive population and become drug resistant. But when you combine INH and rifampin, because the mutation is independent to each other, having mutation for both drugs will be in the order of 10 to the power of 13, whereas the number of organism in a cavitary infection will be in the order of 10 to the power of 11. Okay, so basically not even a single organism will be resistant to both drugs in a typical cavitary infection. Okay, so that is why we are combining many drugs in the management of tuberculosis. So when we talk about the subpopulations of tuberculosis, we have actively dividing subpopulation which are sensitive to isoniazid and rifampin. Semi-dormant incautious lesions will be responding to pyrazinamide, and their the bacilli which are residing inside the macrophages will be sensitive to isoniazid and rifampin. Okay. Now if we talk about the global tuberculosis burden, according to the 2015 report, so you can see the incidence in India is almost 1/5 of the global incidence. You can even call India as the tuberculosis capital of the world. And in India, almost 2.2 lakhs people die per year due to tuberculosis. Okay, right. Then we will talk about RNTCP, Revised National Tuberculosis Control Program. This is a program done undertaken by Ministry of Health in our country, okay, to form guidelines for the management of tuberculosis, that is from diagnosis to therapy Okay, therapy, not only individual therapy, but therapy for the community as a whole, thereby reducing the transmission. So it initially started in 1997 by the government of India. The latest edition is around came out in 2016. Okay. So according to the RNTCP, the goal is to reduce the incidence rate compared to 2015 to 50% by 2035, and to reduce the mortality rate by 75%. Okay, right. Okay, so before jumping into the proper pharmacotherapy, we will talk about certain definitions. So presumptive pulmonary TB, it refers to a person with any of the symptoms and signs suggestive of tuberculosis, including cough greater than 2 weeks, fever greater than 2 weeks, significant weight loss, hemoptysis, and any abnormality in the chest radiograph. This definition was coined keeping primary health centers in mind. Okay, primary health centers will not have a proper infrastructure to carry out the acid fast bacilli staining and all. Okay, they will be having a simple radiographic machine. Okay, so this definition was created by RNTCP to manage tuberculosis in India. This might not be applicable to the West, but it's applicable in our country. Okay, and whenever such an condition is satisfied, if the PHC doctor is satisfied that this might be presumptive TB, then they can go ahead with starting the anti-tubercular chemotherapy. Okay, so presumptive extrapulmonary tuberculosis refers to the presence of organ-specific symptoms and signs like swelling of the lymph node, pain and swelling in the joints, neck stiffness, disorientation, etc., and or constitutional symptoms like significant weight loss, persistent fever for more than 2 weeks, and night sweats. Presumptive pediatric tuberculosis refers to children with persistent fever or cough for more than 2 weeks, loss of weight or no weight gain, or history of contact with the infectious TB cases. So when this criteria is satisfied, then in the remote areas we can start tuberculosis chemotherapy. Otherwise, but whenever possible, we have to confirm the case by sputum examination or acid fast staining for Mycobacterium tuberculosis bacilli. Okay, right. Now, presumptive drug-resistant TB refers to those TB patients who have failed treatment with first-line drugs, pediatric TB non-responders, TB patients who are contacts of drug-resistant tuberculosis, TB patients who are found positive on any follow-up sputum smear examination during the treatment with first-line drugs, previously treated TB cases, TB patients with HIV co-infection. Okay, now tools for testing. Of course, we already saw that sputum smear examination, perform Ziehl-Neelsen staining, and you can see the pinkish bacilli. If the bacilli cannot be identified with smear, they can be all grown. The specimen can be grown in the culture, but culture days takes months to give results, weeks to months. So recently we have developed molecular diagnostic tools, especially PCR. Polymerase chain reaction techniques are used to rapidly diagnose tuberculosis. Now, how to diagnose drug-resistant tuberculosis? And by culture and sensitivity, which will take time, or we can look for the target mutated DNA using PCR techniques. Okay, what are all the goals of a treatment for tuberculosis according to the RNTCP? Of course, curing the individual is foremost importance of foremost importance, but there are other things which has to be taken care of to prevent the community transmission, or to treat the community as a whole. Okay, so the goals of treatment will be to decrease the case fatality, to minimize and prevent the development of drug resistance, to render the patient non-infectious. Okay, right. Then comes the patient classification. Based upon the classification, the drug therapy might vary. First is newly diagnosed, and the second is previously treated. These two terms are very self-explanatory. So if a person is diagnosed for the first time that he or she is having tuberculosis, then the regimen will be separate. But if a person is diagnosed with tuberculosis who already had tuberculosis and was treated for it, then they will be considered as previously treated, and their treatment regimen will be a little bit different. Then we have monoresistance cases, that is drug to any of resistance to any of the first line drugs. Then the treatment regimen will change a little. Then we have polydrug resistance, more than one first line drug but not H and R together. Then we have multi-drug resistance, where the patient is resistant to both isoniazid and rifampin. And we have extensively drug resistant tuberculosis, where the patient has all the characteristics of multi-drug resistance along with the resistance towards fluoroquinolone and second line injectables. It's really the worst form of tuberculosis, and the mortality rate is as high as 40 to 60% in the case of extensively drug resistant tuberculosis. Okay, now let us talk about the treatment regimen for sensitive cases, not the drug resistance cases. DOTS stands for directly observed treatment short course, because the therapy is actively monitored by healthcare workers, so that is why it is called directly observed treatment short course. If you visit some RNTCP centers, at least during the induction phase, the patients are required to consume the drug in front of the healthcare worker to ensure that the patient is compliant. Okay, even in the continuous phase, the patients will be given the drug and they have to return the used or empty packets to claim the next dose. So that is how the treatment is observed throughout the country. So that is why India was able to reduce the incidence and mortality a lot when compared to the olden days, but still there is a long way to go. Yes, this is very important. The take home message for the previous class was, at least you should know the first line drugs in the management of tuberculosis, that is HRZENS, that is isoniazid, rifampin, pyrazinamide, ethambutol and streptomycin. Similarly, for this class, at least you should remember this slide. If you remember only this slide, that will be well and good. Okay, this slide summarizes the treatment regimen. When you take the duration, when you take the treatment regimen, it is divided into two parts, that is IP intensive phase and CP is continuous phase. Intensive phase eliminates the bacilli very fast, and the continuous phase maintains the elimination until all the dormant bacilli are eliminated. If the patient is newly diagnosed, we give 2 months of HRZND, that is 2 months of isoniazid, rifampin, pyrazinamide, ethambutol, followed by 4 months of continuous phase, which includes 3 drugs: HRE, isoniazid, rifampin and ethambutol. But if the patient was previously treated and he or she is sensitive to the first line drugs, then the regimen will be 2 months of HRZES and 1 month of HRZE in the intensive phase. That is 2 months of isoniazid, rifampin, pyrazinamide, ethambutol and streptomycin, and 1 month of isoniazid, rifampin, pyrazinamide and ethambutol. And the continuous phase will be 5 months of isoniazid, rifampin and ethambutol. So basically the total duration for newly diagnosed case will be 6 months, which is divided into 2 months of intensive phase and 4 months of continuous phase, whereas for previously treated cases the total duration of treatment will be 8 months, which is divided into 3 months of intensive phase and 5 months of continuous phase. When we talk about the multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, like you see this the second part first. If it is confirmed case of resistance towards both INH and rifampin, then intensive phase consists of 6 to 9 months of kanamycin, levofloxacin, ethionamide, cycloserine, pyrazinamide and ethambutol. And continuous phase consists of 18 months of levofloxacin, ethionamide, cycloserine and ethambutol. Whereas if it's just rifampin resistance plus isoniazid sensitive or status unknown, then you have to just add isoniazid to the regimen, which includes 6 to 9 months of intensive phase with kanamycin, levofloxacin, ethionamide, cycloserine, pyrazinamide, ethambutol and isoniazid, and 18 months of continuous phase with levofloxacin, ethionamide, cycloserine, ethambutol and isoniazid. Okay, but if you remember from the previous class, there are 2 newer drugs which have been developed in the management of tuberculosis, that is bedaquiline and delamanid. Okay, so the government has started giving these 2 drugs to multi-drug resistant cases in a conditional manner. Okay, they don't just give it in all RMTCP centers. There are specific centers where bedaquiline is given in some centers, and in some centers delamanid is given. Okay, this is to prevent the development of resistance to these drugs also. So multi-drug resistance cases will be referred to those centers, and they will get access to these 2 drugs for their treatment. For extensively drug resistant tuberculosis, even with such an extensive regimen, it will be very difficult to treat and the mortality rate is very high. Intensive phase consists of 6 to 12 months of capreomycin, para-aminosalicylic acid, moxifloxacin, high dose isoniazid, clofazimine, linezolid, amoxicillin and clavulanic acid. Treatment with during continuous phase, it includes almost 18 months of para-aminosalicylic acid, moxifloxacin, high dose isoniazid, clofazimine, linezolid, amoxicillin and clavulanic acid. In the case of only isoniazid resistance with rifampin sensitivity, the intensive phase consists of 3 to 6 months of kanamycin, levofloxacin, rifampin, ethambutol and pyrazinamide, and the continuous phase consists of 6 months of therapy with levofloxacin, rifampin, ethambutol and pyrazinamide. For drug sensitive cases, dosage will be usually it comes in packets. Okay, if it is each in intensive phase, each tablet will have 75 milligram of isoniazid, 150 milligram of rifampin, 400 milligram of pyrazinamide and 275 milligram of ethambutol. Okay, so for patients who are less than 40 kgs, the 2 tablets are given, whereas the patient weighs more than 70 kgs, 5 tablets are given per day. Similarly, in the continuation phase, each tablet will have 75 milligram of isoniazid, 150 milligram of rifampin and 275 milligram of ethambutol. And as provided in the table, injection streptomycin is also dosed according to the body weight. Now all these tabular columns are publicly available in the RNTCP document. You can visit the Ministry of Health website and you can freely download the document. Okay, it has much more information than what I am discussing here. So when we talk about pediatric patients, this is the dosage form. Okay, I would recommend you to download the document and go through the table to understand the dosage of various drugs in pediatric patients. When we talk about per kg dose, so previously DOTS was just given 3 days a week, but now they have abolished that, so it's always given daily now and never ever on alternate days. So isoniazid will be around 5 mg per kg, rifampin is around 10 mg per kg, pyrazinamide is around 25 mg per kg, ethambutol is 15 mg per kg, and streptomycin is 15 mg per kg. So this is the dosage for multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. Again, you can refer to the table in the document, and this is the dose of various drugs used in the management of extensively drug resistant tuberculosis. Okay. So how to treat tuberculosis in pregnancy? All drugs are safe except, of course, we all know that aminoglycosidase is highly teratogenic. So all the other drugs are very safe. All the first line drugs are safe in pregnancy except streptomycin. Isoniazid, rifampin, ethambutol, and pyrazinamide can be safely given in pregnancy. If the pregnant woman is diagnosed with multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, then the therapy depends upon the duration of pregnancy. If it is less than 20 weeks, better to abort the fetus and then continue with the regimen for multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. But if woman does not agree to medical termination of pregnancy, then we have to modify the regimen a little bit. That is, if the duration of pregnancy is less than 12 weeks, we have to omit kanamycin and ethionamide, and we have to add PAS. If it is greater than 12 weeks, just omit kanamycin only and add PAS. Replace PAS with kanamycin after the delivery and continue till the end of intensive phase. If the duration of pregnancy is greater than 20 weeks, then MTP is not advised. Let the woman continue her pregnancy and then start a modified regimen wherein we have to omit kanamycin and add para-aminosalicylic acid till delivery, then replace PAS with kanamycin after delivery and continue till the end of intensive phase. Management of ADRs. Although the first line drugs are very safe, one of the severe form of ADR will be hepatitis. Okay. Right. If the ADRs are mild, just treat the symptoms and continue the drug. But if the ADRs are severe, especially if there is severe hepatitis, we have to stop and reintroduce the drugs in a step-by-step manner. And whichever drug is the offending drug, we have to replace the drug with the second-line agents. So if severe hepatitis is diagnosed, we have to stop all the drugs, then reintroduce rifampin first and then H. If possible, do not give pyrazinamide and prolong the rifampin and isoniazid therapy. How to follow the patients? So clinically we have to follow them up once in every month, and they have to lab test has to be performed at the end of every phase. Treatment outcome. Of course, outcome is whether the treatment or the patient has responded or not, but RNTCP has defined various terms to manage the program. So one is cured, self-explanatory. Treatment completed, but we do not know whether the patient is cured or not. Treatment success means even if it is both the categories combined above, mentioned above, combined together is treatment success. Failure means during the course of the treatment, if the patient turns smear positive, then that is considered treatment failure. Loss to follow up means the patient does not has stopped visiting the RNTCP center. Not evaluated means he is diagnosed with tuberculosis, but after that, for some reasons, for some either by logistic lesion, either from the administration side or from the patient side, if the center fails to evaluate, then that becomes not evaluated. Treatment regimen changed, that is the patient may be initially sensitive, then he or she would have become resistant, and the regimen is changed to resistant tuberculosis, and the final outcome is the patient has died. Okay. What is the role of corticosteroids in the management of tuberculosis? Okay. Of course, corticosteroids for usual therapy, they don't have any role, but it has a huge role in managing critically ill patients. And if the tuberculosis involves meninges, pericardium, and kidneys, to prevent excessive fibrosis, we have to give corticosteroids. And of course, if there is any hypersensitivity reactions, then corticosteroids are essential. For AIDS patients with severe TB, also corticosteroids are given. Chemoprophylaxis, especially healthcare workers who are in constant touch with the tuberculosis patients, we have to provide them chemoprophylaxis. That is isoniazid 300 mg daily for 6 months, or isoniazid 5 mg per kg and rifampin 10 mg per kg given daily for 3 months. How to manage tuberculosis when the patient is co-infected with, or how to manage tuberculosis in AIDS patients? Okay, we have to continue the same treatment, but sometimes the treatment duration might be prolonged, but we should try not to alter the mycobacterium tuberculosis regimen. We have to alter the antiretroviral regimen accordingly. Especially the preferred antiretroviral therapy will be the combination of tenofovir, lamivudine, and rifavirin. Yeah. Sometimes the person is given cotrimoxazole to prevent Pneumocystis jirovecii infections. Sometimes, if for some reasons the antiretroviral therapy cannot changed, then rifampin should be replaced with rifabutin, which is a lesser enzyme inducer when compared to rifampin, so that the protease inhibitors of antiretroviral therapy will work properly. So that's all about the management of pharmacotherapeutic management of tuberculosis. So I would all recommend you to download the RNTCP document from the government website and then study properly to understand better about the pharmacotherapeutic management of tuberculosis according to the RNTCP guidelines. Thank you.